And welcome back to Candlestick College. This is week 1, day 3 here. So we're getting halfway through this first week here. And I just wanted to go over where we are in the course. So we're in week 1 still. And if we're just going to zoom right in here, we'll see that day 3, we're going to be talking about data. Okay? So all day today, we're just going to be talking about real data versus data analysis. And it's important to decipher what we're looking at. And the real data is the pure numbers, okay? And by that, I mean the numbers aren't derived from any other numbers, okay? And then the data analysis is when two or more real numbers are being compared with each other and a new number is made from the pure data. And this adds a layer of complexity to the number, and that's why it's so important to understand when we're trying to make these investments simple and fun. It's important to understand what is real data and what is data analysis. And that's what we're going to focus on today. So examples of real data are the price, right? The price is the price. That's the market price, and that's what you're going to pay, and that's what you're going to get if you have it and you're trying to sell it. And then a next example of real data is the number of shares, right? So there's outstanding shares to a company, and that's a fixed number, and that's set by the company. So that's important to realize as well. Revenue is a number that can't be, it's not derived from any other numbers, so it is a pure number as revenue. And volume is also a pure number. Those are all the real numbers. So the data analysis, some examples of data analysis would be the price per earnings. Maybe you've heard of this fundamental indicator, right? Everybody talks about how expensive a stock is, how it's trading at 100 times earnings, right? And we're going to get into what each of these mean and where to find them all. But just know that price per earnings is based on two numbers, right? It's based on the price of the stock and the earnings of the company. And then next is performance. And performance is the price now relative to a price in history, right? So the monthly performance is the price now compared to the price a month ago. But yearly performance is the price now compared to the price a year ago, right? So there's different performance numbers based on the amount of time that has elapsed. And next is market capitalization. And I'm going to break down what market capitalization is in the following slides, but just know it's derived from two other numbers, the outstanding shares and then the price, okay? And lastly is volatility, which is a little more complex than all the other ones, but we're going to try and cover that as well, okay? So let's just talk about the real data for a second here, okay? So the stock price shows the consistency of the price movement. So you should be able to pull up any stock chart and see the price movement over time. And depending on that moment in time, that is what the stock price is going to be. So it's usually the rightmost price on the chart, and then the next day will be another new price, another new candle, right? So the outstanding shares are something that's just arbitrarily set by the company. It's kind of controlled by the company, just like the US dollar is controlled by the government. A company's shares are controlled by that company. So it's really an arbitrary amount that's set by the company at the company's inception, and they can authorize more shares, but when they authorize more shares, it dilutes the existing share value, right? And then next is the sales, which is the company revenue, right? So that is a pure number as well, the sales number. And then the account of the daily volume of trading, right? So I decided to name it account, and it's going to be very obvious why I chose to name it account, but it's really the account of the volume on the day, right? That makes sense. So the amount of volume that's traded that day, we have to account for that, and we're going to do it right here in this easy to remember formula that I'm about to reveal here. But first, we're going to talk about the data analysis, okay? So each of these pieces that we talked about are important as well. And really, anything else besides the last four things, the last four real data and these four data analysis, you can pretty much ignore, okay? This is going to cover 90% of what you need to know. So the market capitalization is just the share price times the outstanding shares, okay? So remember, the outstanding shares was an arbitrary number set by the company. And then the share price is the share price. That's what the market thinks it's worth. That's what people are buying and selling it at, right? So the market price times the outstanding shares will give you the market capitalization. And next is the volatility. So the volatility is just the price movement sensitivity. So if you remember from yesterday, we talked about the average true range, and we can pull up that as an indicator, and we can see the fluctuations in the average true range. But basically, a high volatility stock will have a higher ATR. And as the volatility decreases, so will the average true range in terms of that being a percentage of the total price. So I know it's a lot to think about and take in right now, but just understand that volatility is a measure of the price sensitivity, right? Is it gonna fall like that, or is it gonna take a day or two to drop 1% or 2%, right? How big is it? These are all factors in volatility. Next is performance, and the performance is really the price relative to an arbitrary historical price, right? So you set the arbitrary historical price by saying, oh, I'm going to look up the performance over the last month or over the last quarter or over the last year, right? So you're determining what performance you look at. And the final one is the price per earnings. I talked about this a little before, but it's the price per $1 of earnings is what the price per earnings is. That's the exact definition. So that's important to realize as well. And really, so here's the real data that you need to know, and here's the data analysis. So the real data, you want to know the stock price. That's one of the most important features of the real data. And then the outstanding shares is, again, very important. And the sales of the company is important. And the volume traded, which I nicknamed accounts. And data analysis is the market capitalization, the volatility, the performance, and the price per earnings. And an easy acronym that you can remember this by is SOSA MVP. MVP, right? There's two P's there. But this helped me remember it when I was trying to remember the really important numbers that I needed to know, because if you don't know Sammy Sosa, then I'll explain that he was a famous baseball player, and you're probably not from America if you don't know who Sammy Sosa is, but he is a famous baseball player who was the MVP, okay? He was the MVP, and that's an easy way to remember it, is Sosa MVP, okay? And even further, even deeper, this analogy goes even deeper, right? So Sosa was the real player. He's the guy behind everything. So this is the real data, right? The SOSA. And then the data analysis is the MVP, right? So a bunch of people came together and decided that he was the best player, and that's where the analysis comes in, okay? So Sosa MVP. Hopefully this is helpful to help you remember these key numbers. But let's get right into the homework assignment for today. And you want to analyze a company using Sosa MVP and choose a company you're interested in, right? So this can be fun for you. So choose a company you're interested in, and I just did this assignment just to show you what it'll look like when you're complete. But a company I really like is Disney. You know, I love that it's an experience with Disney. They're always making it exciting and fun to be involved, right? So I looked up the company Disney, and I looked up the real data, and I found the real data on FinViz. So I pulled up the ticker DIS on FinViz, and I scrolled down a little bit, and this is the exact snippet of Disney at this slice in time. And the real data, I could find that the sales were here, shares outstanding here, volumes here, and the price is over there. And then the data analysis, here's the market cap, here's the P to E, here's the performance on the year, and the volatility. So that's where all the numbers are. And putting it in to our Sosa MVP, you get I put in the stock price that day, I put in the outstanding shares, I put in the sales, I put in the volume traded that day, the account. And then I put in the market cap, the volatility, the 1 year performance. You can use whatever performance you want, just make sure to specify what it is, and then also the price per earnings. And that is a mistake. There should not be a dollar sign there. That's my bad. The price per earnings is just a multiple. So that's 15.16. Ignore that dollar sign and make sure you get it right on your homework assignment. And I will see everyone in day 4. See you then.